This is the Legion Go S. We actually took a look at it back in January during CES, but where this version, to a lot of people's dismay, is running Windows 11, there is an entirely new SKU, a retail version that you can actually buy that now comes with SteamOS preloaded from the factory, and I have it right here. In this video, we're going to get it out of the box, go through some setup, play some games, and see not just how different this is from the standard Legion Go S, but also why you might or might not want to consider it over Valve's own Steam Deck, and why this handheld is more important to the market than one might think. Let's jump right in. Before we continue on, I'd like to talk about today's sponsor, DoorDash. We've all been there. You get home after a long day, you're absolutely exhausted, and suddenly you check the fridge only to realize there's nothing for dinner. Well, that is where DoorDash comes into play. What I love about DoorDash is it's not just about food delivery, though of course it can be a lifesaver when you're absolutely tired to cook. It is quite literally your door to everything you need and more. Want to get groceries but don't have the time to make it to a store? Deliver through DoorDash. Have a sudden headache and realize you're out of medicine? Deliver through DoorDash. Having friends over for a movie night and forgot the snacks? Deliver through DoorDash. Me personally, I like to order Mediterranean from my favorite spot down the street. And the app is super intuitive. Just browse what you need, tap to order, and track your delivery in real time. I've been using it a ton lately, especially since the office has been busy with all these tech releases, and DoorDash really comes in clutch. It allows me to focus on what matters most while quickly getting what I need delivered directly to my door. Download the DoorDash app now to get almost anything you need delivered, and use code Denki50 to get 50% off up to $10 on your first order of $15 or more. Hurry, this is a limited time offer. Again, huge thanks to DoorDash for sponsoring the content we make here on Denki, and now back to the video. Now, full disclosure, Lenovo did send this product out to us here at Overclock Media to review, but are not sponsoring this video and have no say on my opinions. But yeah, let's go ahead and crack this box open and see what's inside. Now, I will say that if you have seen our original video on the Legion Go S from back in January, a lot of this unboxing will probably evoke some deja vu, because as far as I'm aware, a lot of the packaging and whatnot is honestly the same for this SteamOS version as the Windows one. On the right here, we have our charging brick, which is Steam Deck branded. Interesting. Just like the plug that's included with the Windows version, this guy is rated for 65 watts, though the main reason why this has a Steam Deck branded charger is not just because it is a SteamOS device, but rather this review unit itself was actually QC'd by Valve themselves before it made it over to the office. The briefing materials that I was given seem to suggest that the final retail version of the Legion Go S with SteamOS will include a standard Lenovo charger in the box, but this is still a funny little addition, even if it isn't the standard one that most people will be getting. But of course, the moment we've been waiting for, the actual Legion Go S itself running SteamOS. Sliding the slip cover off, which does actually look really nice. Flip the styrofoam, and yes, there we are. And this guy definitely looks like a Legion Go S. Though I do love this very dark purple colorway. I don't know how easy that comes across on camera. I'll pull up a press image, which I think should better represent the actual color scheme of this. Oh man, it looks brilliant in person. Putting it up against the Legion Go running Windows 11, as you can see, yeah, it looks virtually identical, again, just with a different color. Though, the main key difference that I can see in terms of the buttons is that over here in the top left corner, we have a Steam logo. And also, for some reason, they did not engrave the icons on the SteamOS version where they have on the Windows one. Just a little observation, not a big deal. The buttons look and feel basically the same. Compared to the original Steam Deck and the Switch OLED, the Legion Go S is definitely a larger device, with it being taller than the Steam Deck and absolutely dwarfing the Switch OLED. It makes sense though because this does have a larger display compared to both of them. And I will say, playing around with the buttons a little bit, I'm reminded of one of my favorite features of the Legion Go S, which is the fact that it has trigger locks. You flip this switch on the back and it will reduce the distance needed to press your triggers. This is especially nice when you're playing shooting games, maybe with semi-automatic fire, and you need to wrap it really fast. This makes that very quick, and of course, to just flip them back, you move the switch down, and then you have full travel again, say if you want to hop to a racing game. This is really nice. You see this a lot in Pro controllers. The fact that it is integrated into the Legion Go S is super cool. Now, I'm definitely curious to play some games on this thing, but I'm also quite curious about the setup process because in theory, it should be pretty similar, if not the exact same, to the actual Valve Steam Deck. Well, at least on startup, it does say Legion, so they're not trying to bamboozle you. Why'd I say it like that? Bamboozle. I just came from New York a couple of days ago. That's probably why. Bamboozle. And just like that, we have the actual sign-in page, just like you would see on initial startup for a Steam Deck. Oh, we're setting up. Welcome to Steam OS. Thank you. Before we start playing, let's take a quick tour of your Lenovo Legion Go S. It's definitely nice to see that Steam OS calls the device what it is, because back when we saw this thing at CES, it was calling the Legion Go S a Steam Deck everywhere, just to show you how early a build that was. Our micro SD card slot on the bottom, it is expandable just like on the Steam Deck, which is really nice to see, especially if you do have a lot of games. You can get like a 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte micro SD in here, and you're all set to go. And have fun! We hope you enjoy your Legion Go S. And just as expected, this is full-fledged Steam OS, just as we've seen it on the deck. You can scroll around. Also, this display just looks really nice, again with a higher resolution and 120 Hz. That is silky smooth. Hell, even a lot of the settings look the same as well. It'll even get system updates from Valve themselves, which is really nice to see that this will, in theory, moving forward, will get a ton of support. But yeah, let me get some games on here, try it out for a little bit, and get you some first impressions on this Legion Go S running SteamOS. Okay, I spent about 48 hours with the Steam-powered Legion Go S. And for the most part, I really like this thing as a Steam Deck alternative. On first impressions, you can tell both Lenovo and especially Valve worked very hard to make this a smooth user experience. Where the Windows version of this device has its ups and downs, SteamOS practically runs flawless with this hardware. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that it runs circles around Windows 11 in terms of intuitiveness and consistency. If you really think about it, this makes a ton of sense. After all, SteamOS was built from the ground up for handhelds, whereas Windows was not. Where you will especially notice a difference is on initial startup, where Windows gives you a goofy, scaled-up version of their desktop interface. However, when it comes to SteamOS, the layout is very well optimized for touch and controller, the way that Lord Gaben intended. There's just way less jank on this side of the fence, but where this especially rings true is with the performance overlay. Both versions of the Legion Go S make this accessible with just a click of a button, but where there is a lot of hesitation on the Windows machine using the Legion Space software, this SteamOS version, on the other hand, opens it up very quickly every single time, making it easy to monitor and adjust things like frame rate limits, GPU clock speeds, and TDP at a system level on the fly. I know this point might seem a bit trivial, but when you're bouncing back and forth trying to min-max your settings, this fluid interface really makes a huge difference towards customizing your gameplay experience. The frictionless UX on the Steam-powered Legion Go S is also complemented by a bit of extra power in games compared to the aging hardware on the Steam Deck. And that's before we talk about a lot of the advantages towards this design, such as the hair trigger locks for FPS games, the more rounded grip that feels comfortable in the hands for long gaming sessions, and even the dual USB-C ports on top, which let you charge and use accessories simultaneously. Talking a bit more about performance, the base model that I'm testing right here is running the Ryzen Z2 Go APU with 16 gigs of RAM and a 512 gig SSD. If you missed my earlier video on the Windows version of this device, the Z2 Go chip sits in an interesting middle ground, with 4 Zen 3 CPU cores and 12 RDNA 2 CUs. Definitely beefier than the Steam Deck's hardware, but not quite up to what the Z1 Extreme offers in higher-end handhelds, and that's by design. While I did spend most of my time with this device playing more casual games, I did do some heavier testing using Cyberpunk 2077 to see how far I could push visuals. At 800p locked to 30 FPS, I was able to crank up a lot more detail than I was expecting compared to my Steam Deck, especially with FSR 3 set to native AA. Of course, this isn't necessarily indicative of how people will be running their games all the time, especially in the scheme of efficiency, trying to eke out the most battery life while away from a plug. But it is genuinely nice to see just how far you can push your settings to get really awesome looking graphics when you want it. Speaking of the visuals, everything does look really nice on this 8-inch 1200p 120Hz display. It gets plenty bright at 500 nits, and while it doesn't have those OLED level blacks, the higher resolution here does provide noticeably sharper detail compared to my original Steam Deck. Though, I guess to be fair, pixel density on all of these handhelds were already quite solid to begin with. And I know I touched on it just a hair, but in regards to battery life, while I haven't had enough time to do thorough testing, I've noticed that it generally lasts longer than the Windows version running similar workloads, which isn't really much of a surprise given how much more efficient SteamOS is. The bigger 55 watt-hour battery combined with SteamOS's optimization means you can actually get better endurance out of this compared to a Steam Deck, which is a huge plus for portable gaming. I didn't have the time to properly test that, so I will leave the hour-by-hour comparisons to the more technically focused review outlets. Now, moving on to price, things are a bit different than when I last talked about the Steam-powered Legion Go S back in January. Originally, the SteamOS version was supposed to hit a base price of $500, but is now going to retail for $599. At MSRP, this is still quite a bit cheaper than its Windows 11 counterpart, which does retail for $729. It still has that Z2 Go APU, albeit with double the RAM at 32 gigs. So it does seem like you are saving quite a bit of cash by not having to pay for a Windows license. Though, to be fair, right now you can find the Windows model on discount for $599 as well. Now, it might be easy to write this off, especially if you are all in on that Windows 11 hate train, but I do think it is worth considering, especially for that extra RAM, so long as you don't mind installing SteamOS yourself, which there is an official pathway for. Even better if you prefer the white colorway too. Something else to consider, especially if you are in a baller spending mood, is speccing up to a Steam-powered Legion Go S with a Z1 Extreme APU. You'll be getting that seamless SteamOS experience along with even faster gaming performance. Though of course, all of this does come with a pretty hefty price tag of $829, which is a considerable amount more than the Z2 Go version, and even a tad above something like the ROG Ally X. However, I will say if you are coming from a Steam Deck or a Steam Deck OLED, this might be the way to go if you are looking for a significant upgrade under the same platform. Now, for those of you out there that don't have a PC handheld yet and are shopping around, at $599, the Legion Go S is priced roughly in the same ballpark as the Steam Deck OLED, though quite a bit more expensive than the original Steam Deck, which can be found for as low as $250 to $400 depending on the condition and the storage you get. If you're mainly buying this device to play indie titles or older games, the regular Steam Deck is still an incredible value. However, for those wanting better performance in newer AAA games and want a higher quality display, the Legion Go S does make a compelling case. Moving past all of this consumer consumer advice. What I find the most intriguing about the Steam-powered Legion Go S is what it represents for the PC handheld market. While SteamOS has been available for various devices through community efforts and beta programs, the Legion Go S marks the first official partnership where Valve has directly partnered with a third-party manufacturer, potentially signaling a new chapter for handheld PC gaming, where even more manufacturers could enter the SteamOS ecosystem with Valve's official blessing. The effort here is commendable because the partnership does require serious commitments from both sides to really make it work. Valve needs to ensure the same level quality experience as the Steam Deck, where Lenovo has to meet Valve standards to make this collaboration successful. The relationship between these two companies could ultimately serve as a blueprint for future partnerships, which I imagine could happen with manufacturers such as ASUS to join in. The timing of this could also not be any better, with rumors of an Xbox handheld gaining momentum. That device is speculated to be a special version of the next-gen ROG Ally, along with an Xbox button and a streamlined Windows interface. Essentially, this is Microsoft's attempt at solving the Windows on handheld problem from their own side. We'll have to see what that's like later on this year, but if you needed a sign that competition's at play, there you go. Regardless, with the Steam-powered Legion Go S, it is really refreshing to see Valve take a more proactive approach to competition rather than just reacting to it. Looking at the even bigger picture, the potential of more Steam-powered devices means better developer support, more standardized hardware, and a more consistent experience across devices. I would love to see more high-end options such as the Legion Go 2 running a Z2 Extreme with SteamOS. But let me know, what do you think about the Steam-powered Legion Go S in the comments below? And otherwise, thanks for watching this video on Denki channel.